if you're thinking about this industry, you definitely came at the right time. We've had a great 11 years through ups and downs, different presidents, COVID. The market's moved rapidly forward every single year, the last 11. But yeah, the next 2 years are going to be crazy with what's going on. So let's just dive in. And if you have a question, toss it in chat because I can see that for some reason better than the Q&A. We're going to go over all the main topics of the conference, including who the speakers are, because I want you to see those as well. The economic landscape, rescheduling, descheduling, 280E, tax strategies, refund claims, etc., valuations, intoxicating, and then how to get into the program. If you haven't seen me before, I've been pretty active, almost 10 years in this industry. I've won awards. I help plan and lead the AICPA Cannabis Conference every year, which we're going to speak about today. I think I'm in year 5 on that. I write for Accounting Today, Journal of Accountancy. I've been on their podcast. I've been on Schwab TV or Forbes or Bloomberg. So I'm about, and this doesn't even cover, I speak at many cannabis events across the U.S. as well. And I've taught now over 1,500 accountants and CPAs how to do cannabis accounting correctly, as well as 5 national firms as well have paid me for my education. So I think I can safely say I'm one of the leaders in the space at this point. There are many others with me in the cannabis committee as well. I'm going to sprinkle in pictures throughout. We were at Rockies, Denver. We also have a new franchise opportunity called Dope CFO Certified Advisor. We rented out the dugout at the Rockies game ahead of the AICPA event and had a ton of fun there. We also toured a grow facility. We have a lot of fun. By the way, that's a huge perk for me in this industry. It's far and away the most fun niche you will ever serve. So to have that coincide with the birth of this massive industry is just super duper fun. And and by the way, pretty much all the national firms are here, the small firms, the regional firms, the solo accountants. And so it's not a time to be worried about like, oh, am I going to get in trouble or lose my license or any of that stuff, including the AICPA, including Luke Ortner, senior counsel at the Office of Chief Counsel IRS. He was one of our many keynotes. Great talk. We'll cover that. Nathaniel Pollock, he's now in private practice, but he was at DOJ and led their cannabis practice division for many years. So he's very deep insider. Aaron Smith, founder of NCIA, will go through some of his slides. He has spoken there the last 3 years, I believe. And he's been helping push the national cannabis movement on the nonprofit side for a long time, maybe 15 years. My buddy Ron, the valuation leader in cannabis, will talk about some of what he had to say. He also has what I think is a definitive book. It's a second edition, is available on Amazon, third edition coming out soon. If you do valuations or appraisals, you got to have that book. I don't get paid, by the way. We actually spoke on stage together this year. I love Ron. I'm 61 and he's 71, but you can tell how much fun he's having. And that's where I want to be. I want to be in this industry the next 10 years. I want to have a good time. I want to help clients. I want to help add value to the industry, give back, and yeah, make money as well. We talk a lot about the VIP, building our value expertise. Including at age 71, instructing, including at age 71, and participating, giving back. You do those 3 things, that solves your marketing problem right there. Every accountants ask me all day long, Andrew, I'm introverted. I hate sales. I hate marketing. Great. Don't do marketing. Why don't you just help people get involved in the industry, give back? We help our clients, and it's very easy to find them that way. We had both Jen Benda and Rachel Gillette from Holland and Hart, one of the top law firms. They're in the front lines doing cannabis audits. Both of these ladies, Ron as well, have been on my podcast. So is Aaron Smith. So you can check out my podcast at Dope CFO, get more deep dive on that as well. They are amazing tax attorneys, and I always love hearing them. Christian Cedarberg, first time he was there. He's with Vicente, another top law firm. He gave a great talk on the economics Scott Griper, he founded Viridian Capital, and Viridian Capital Advisory is pretty much the leader on data analytics on all the equity and debt capital coming into the markets. They put out amazing research literally every day, and you can go to viridian.com and just sign up for his newsletter, and they will send it to you every day, and just tons and tons of information on debt raises, equity raises. I'll share some of his slides. And then Carla McCall, she is the CEO at AAF. And if you haven't heard of AAF, they are a top 100 accounting firm, so a major national firm. She's a CEO. She's also the chair of our national organization called the AICPA, and she gave a keynote, and it was awesome. And she wore, I'll show you a picture of her. With her, there it is. I love it. So not coat and tie, not, she had her green shirt on, her necklace, that really awesome hat, and just gave an awesome, that's me and Joel, who's a dope CFO certified advisor with her. And it's funny, Joel and Carla go way back as well. So it's great to hear that and see that not only AICPA, we have so many national firms behind this movement at this point. Let's jump into the economics. I show this slide almost every time. It's just a good reminder to me. If you learn nothing else, this is the reason. This is the reason right here why cannabis has exploded across the US in the last 10 years and gone from a $0 market to a $40 billion legal market. It's why CBD and hemp is everywhere. Americans want it. We all know one thing. What do we know? Americans don't agree on anything. We are more divided than we've ever been in our life. Congress has had more gridlock of all time last year. Nobody can agree on anything. So when we see now these numbers are actually 8 out of 10 Americans agree on something, that's the good thing about our system. When there's gridlock, it's hard to get bills passed. Things don't change. Some people like gridlock. Well, when we actually agree as Americans on something, it moves very quickly. That's why this movement has moved quickly. That's why it's going to continue as well. And you can look at this map right here. The orange states are fully legal. So think alcohol, basically. They're still regulated, still got to be 21, like my home state of Oregon. I can go buy weed at the dispensary or gummy bears or whatever I want, tincture, just like I can go buy a bottle of scotch. So it's very, very similar to alcohol at this point. That's almost half the US, 25 states, I believe, with Ohio. But green states, some people, this is a misconception. All those green states are medically legal, and they're like, oh, like my home state, Oklahoma, where I was born. Oklahoma's only medical. Why would they need accountants? Oh, because they have 10,000 cannabis companies in Oklahoma. And yes, every one of them needs bookkeeping, payroll, tax, CFO services. Oregon was a green state before it became an orange state, and I had medical cannabis clients. That's irrelevant to accounting. We don't care if they're medical or rec. Now we've got North Dakota, Nebraska, and Florida all about to go up for full vote here in a month. We've also got Pennsylvania just today came out with their legislator put a bill to fully legalize. So we could very quickly be up to 30 plus states fully legal on top of all the good things going. Here's that right there, Florida on the rescheduling. Let's just look at that real quick. For those of you who don't remember or never learned this, the DEA and DOJ have schedules of drugs and medicines. Some things, if they're considered minor enough, like alcohol, we could debate that all day long. Should it be on the schedules or not? It's not on the schedules. Hemp and CBD were on Schedule 1 in 2018. They got pulled all the way off. That's what many people think should happen in cannabis. Schedule 1 are drugs that theoretically, I mean, the actual rule is in our federal government is there has to be no known medical use. A drug cannot be on Schedule 1 if there are known medical uses. We'll talk more about that. Things like ecstasy, heroin, LSD, things where cannabis has been now approved to move to Schedule 3, those are real medicines. Ketamine, Tylenol with codeine, antibiotic steroids, testosterone, many other things. These are regulated medicines. Like you can't get Tylenol with codeine unless you get a prescription, but you can get a prescription and they're real medicine. Well, so is cannabis. At this point, we have universities and hospitals all over the world, hundreds, if not thousands, of scientific studies supporting just hundreds of ailments, including our own federal government. That is why the HHS department approved moving cannabis to Schedule 3. The FDA quickly approved after that. After that, DEA and DOJ chimed in. Here's Aaron Smith's slide on this. Then we published the rule in May. After that, the public comment period closed. What happened? We got 40,000 comments. 92% of them were positive. Yes, let's reschedule. As a matter of fact, there were more than positive. As you can see, 57% said, why are we rescheduling? We need to pull cannabis all the way off the schedules. I agree with that as well. And we'll see what happens. We have new bills coming in Congress. So it's coming very quickly. Possible ALJ hearing. This was again from Aaron's slides. That's now happened. We have a hearing on December 2nd that will happen. And then we're going to get those final bullets. We're going to get the final rule. It's not going backwards. There is no, I want to make that clear. There is no going backwards. Cannabis is moving to Schedule 3. There's likely going to be congressional action, possibly to deschedule it. The only question now is time. Is this going to happen before, if there's a change in president or not? We'll see. Can it go? There's going to be a few lawsuits filed. People are going to have different opinions, but the minority is very small. And so we think this is moving forward very quickly. There is a slow track where, this isn't finalized till next summer. Let's hope that doesn't happen. Faster tracks, the lawsuits can have a stay, but cannabis is officially on Schedule 3 until overturned. There's also the Chevron case, which takes power away from agencies. We don't know how this is going to affect things, but again, from everyone at the conference, including the national people, the attorneys, the Luke Hortner at IRS, Nathaniel Pollock at DOJ, we're in pretty much agreement. Schedule 3 is a done deal. You and me, we all saw what happened when hemp and CBD was legalized. Nobody, my parents, grandparents, no one ever heard of CBD. Now everyone in the US knows about it. Think that for cannabis. We're about to see an absolute explosion of new companies and new capital come into the space. And other things we'll see: Safe Banking Act, regulating hemp products, descheduling, new regulating pathway. Hemp and CBD, I talked about this already, were descheduled. Cannabis is not scheduled to be descheduled, but let's hope that happens, because that will make it more similar to alcohol, where it belongs, I think, and a lot of people think. And so we'll see what happens. It's going to depend result of the elections, and we'll see where we go. This again is Aaron Smith's slide. First, so we have a complete presidential ticket, first ever. Both the VP Harris and Walz both are behind cannabis. So that's good if they win. On the other side of the ticket, Trump has now come out since these slides were out. You can go listen to this yourself. He did a podcast with Lex Fringman. I think at the 24th minute, Lex simply asked, hey, former President Trump, what do you think of cannabis? Should it be legal? He said he supported legalization in his home state of Florida for the election coming up. And he also supported national legalization for medical cannabis. He just wants it done right. He prefers how Florida is doing it versus New York. And so we've got Republicans, we've got Democrats, we've got red states, we've got blue states, we've got 80% of the population. We've got the FDA, the DEA, the HHS, the DOJ, all on board with this. It's happening. And that's before we talk about the rest of the globe. It's moving legalized across the globe. So again, great time to be in the industry. Now let's step back a second. 280 applies to Schedule 1 and 2 drugs. Right this second, as we're talking today, cannabis is still on Schedule 1. And so 280 still applies. And so Luke Gortner wanted to make this point, and I believe this was from Jen Bend as well. Until it's reschedule is still on Schedule 1, and 280E will apply. So 280E is not going away. This isn't a change in the tax code even when Schedule 3 happens. 280E just applies to Schedule 1 and 2 drugs. So when cannabis moves to Schedule 3, the 280E still exists for things like heroin and meth or whatever else, but it just won't affect cannabis anymore. On refund claims, there's a lot of talk about this. Jen Benda, these are her slides, say you better be ready for scrutiny. If you're filing a refund claim because, oh, you heard Trulieve did it or whatever, you're really testing your luck a little bit. So buyer beware. Do you have the money? The audit, you may have to go to court. Not recommended by anybody at the cannabis conference. And by the way, she said, if your client really is going to do this, you better look at your likelihood of success. How much cash is it going to cost? Legal opinions, and do you have a good attorney? By the way, some of these top cannabis attorneys, and I know most of them, not just Jen and Rachel, there's many others, they're charging in the range of $800 to $1,000 an hour. So you better warn your clients, if they get into the court, they're gonna be spending big dollars on this. I think Harborside, in their multi-year case, spent something like $12 million, some crazy amount of money. Um, Lots of risk. Trulieve filed and $113 million refund. Some people think this case is not over yet. We'll see what happens with that. But there's not deep knowledge of this because it still is behind closed doors as well. There's also risk to you as a preparer, so be careful on that. Now, filing a protective claim for a refund, which you can go back 3 years, that's a little less risky. You're just putting a placeholder. Hey, I might file a refund claim based on this or that lawsuit. It's got to be done the right way. Look at the bottom bullet in writing. You have to identify the contingencies and be sufficiently clear. Identify a specific year based on a contingent event. So be really careful if you do these right. Also use Form 8275 to disclose if you do this for your client, and also your reasonable basis. And by the way, under the IRS, there's an actual legal definition of reasonable basis. So you better make sure you're following. You may think in your head, oh, this is reasonable, but you still may not meet that definition. I tell anybody, I'm not a lawyer. If one of my clients wants to do this, I'm definitely bringing in a top attorney, and I'm going to let my clients know, hey, this is going to cost a ton of money. Are you sure you want to do this? 471C, I'm just going to touch on this briefly. Luke Ortner talked about this as well, and Jim Benda. Inventory 471C is supposedly kind of a little bit of a loophole. If you just go to fully cash basis, you just run everything basically, or a lot of everything through cost of goods sold. That gets you out of 280E. You can't do GAAP financials. But the regulations, this bottom bullet says, hey, this doesn't work for a deduction that would have been disallowed otherwise, i.e. under 280E. This is now being tried in the courts, and so we don't know the answer the courts are going to give us. And so again, I would not use this. Most of the people I respect would not use this. And by the way, there's other reasons besides tax to run GAAP financials, in my opinion, like raising capital and running your business, for example. So I also, it's got to be a small filer. I'm not going to spend any more time on 471C because I think it's a bad idea. Other people disagree with me, but you can check them out as well. Some other notes, some people are using unpaid taxes like excise, payroll, or income as source of their funding. So say you're a dispensary and you collect a 20% excise tax for the state, and you just don't pay the state and you start using that to run your company. Really bad idea. Collection strategy. There's a lot of cash in the business. People are complaining, dispensaries and farms, about collections. Use legal contracts that will help increase your collection rate. C Corp at this point, multi-entity strategy, I'll jump down to the bottom, is a bad idea. Again, this is an old bad idea that doesn't work. Harborside cleared this up completely. You can read that case, just Google it. And so if there might be a reason for a couple of entities, like say a real estate entity, but if there's not a very, you do not use multi-entities to beat 280. That does not work. Also around that form or format, C Corp is usually better. It's definitely better for investors, and pretty much everyone has investors in this industry. Double taxation is really not an issue. Why? It's This industry is too capital intensive. The name of the game for almost everybody is launch your dispensary or farm, build it up, grow like crazy, and do an exit in year 5 to 7. Hopefully get some 1202 benefits, and you're not going to be paying money out. You're either going to be spending all of it just to run day to day, and if you have extra money, you're going to grow. ESOPs, not a great idea either. You've got to be really big. You're giving ownership to your employees. They're very costly to implement and run every year. And so that's a very rare case that might work for a very, very specific case, not something for everybody. Cost segregation can be used. Um, Depreciation normally is not allowed under 280E, but under 47111, if you do correct cost accounting, that's a totally different one of our webinars. You can get depreciation into inventory, which will lower taxes, and cost seg can maximize that. Also, some states, this is another slide off Bloomberg actually, some, not just some, a lot of states have other tax relief as well. So that helps mitigate the 280E burden a little bit as well. Let's look at valuations just a little bit on this. And the reason I show this slide, um, everyone always wants to know, what's a dispensary worth? And my friend Ron, who's the leader on this in the industry, will say, it depends. Where are they? So first question, which state? Every state market is different. So look at Oklahoma, one of the smallest states in the US, and you think, it's a small state. Why does it have more dispensaries than any other state? Well, Oklahoma law opened up the free market, and so they've got this insane amount of dispensaries. So if you want to sell your dispensary in Oklahoma, good luck even finding any buyer, and it's not going to be top dollar. Now, if you want to go buy a dispensary, say in Minnesota, look at that. There's only 17 of them. Minneapolis is a huge city, bigger than Oklahoma City. Those are going to be pretty valuable, but it's going to depend on what state they're in. And then even within a state, like in my hometown, Bend, Oregon, there's a couple, we have 23 dispensaries, and there's some on really amazing locations, and there's others that are super hard to find. And that makes a big difference, like any restaurant as well. You want to be in a good location. And this just shows how, again, US, this is kind of crazy because every market has their own cannabis price. And again, this is, you have to think of tiers. Cannabis is going to be very similar to craft brew over time. And so look at beer. You can say, what's the national price for beer? Well, if I'm selling you Coors or Bud or Miller or whatever, it's probably $1 a can or whatever. I don't know. But there's lots and lots of craft brewers that you can go all the way to $5 beer, $10, $20, $100. Same on wine. We're going to see this different levels of pricing as this market builds out. Cannabis has passed alcohol in the number of users, and I think that's going to continue, especially in Americans over age, say 40, especially because it's not only recreation like alcohol. So many people are using this for anxiety, pain, arthritis, epilepsy, depression, all these things we get in older age, and that people use them for. Okay, hold on one sec. Um, now these next slides are from Viridian, Scott Griper, and again, I signed up for their newsletter, Viridian Capital. The multiples, this is what they believe. Rescheduling is coming, and we think the multiples are going up. This slide's a little bit hard to see, but I think you'll see better here at the bottom right of this table. So they're looking at, so many of us know, how Warren Buffett values companies in the stock market with discounted cash flow. And so you look at future cash flows and you discount it back to the present. And so basically on the left, they're saying with 280E, which is now, and without 280E is after Schedule 3, they're saying the estimated value per share right now is $1.76, and it's going to go up to 13.36. So companies overnight are going to go up almost 8x in value. So imagine if you owned a dispensary in New Jersey and you knew that the second Schedule 3 hit, literally the day it hits, your company, say it's worth $1 million today, is going to go up to $8 million in value. That's really good news for the industry, for the existing 200,000 companies. But think about the people wanting to jump in. The capital is going to flow in a massive way. You're going to see everyone and anyone jumping into this industry. These are, again, Viridian's final thoughts on rescheduling. They, like everyone else, think it's about to happen. Institutional investors will be here as well. Also, there will be lots of M&A. I think that's the other key point that I'll make. There will be definitely some exits. 280E, we've talked about a lot on this. We talk about this on other webinars, and you can find on our blog as well. It's only one sentence. It's really simple. 280E, and 280E is not going away because there's still many drugs that this will apply to. But 280E basically says you don't get any deductions or credits on your tax return if your business happens to sell Schedule 1 or 2 drugs like meth or heroin or cannabis. You still have to file tax returns. So if you're a heroin dealer, still required to file a tax return, and you just don't get any deductions or credits. Now, higher valuations, this is kind of obvious. It's going to lead to happier clients immediately. And they're going to have more money to not only pay themselves, but hopefully to pay us too. And so that's obviously great news as well. We talked about the valuations already, but I think this is good news for the industry, for the current clients and the new clients coming in as well. Now, we're going to see, I don't know what percent, maybe 10, 20% of the market, they're going to look at this time to exit. We will see lots of capital come into the space. And so, if you've been building your dispensary and grinding it out for 8 years, it might be the time to buy. Now, if we are doing exits, they're going to need certain things. One's a perpetual data room, which will hold all the key permanent files, organization docs, leases, etc. You can read all those. And then building out permanent audit trail. We do this for every client every month so that when they're either raising capital or doing M&A, they're already ready. We don't have to do a 6-month project to get them ready because time is of the essence when they're going to sell. Let's talk about intoxicating hemp real quick. So when hemp and CBD became legal in 2018, part of the reason they were legalized and pulled all the way off the schedule was I think all the lawmakers in Congress thought, hemp is used to make cement or fiber or whatever, and CBD doesn't get anyone high, and they're correct. But what they didn't know, the scientists were one step ahead of the regulators, and they figured out, oh, by the way, there's lots of other products and chemicals in hemp that can get people extremely high. Here are some of them listed: Delta 8, THCA, etc. And so now regulators are cracking down like, wait a minute, we didn't regulate or open up hemp so everyone could get high. And by the way, all hemp plants have THC, just a very small amount. Under the law, less than 0.3%. And by the way, this is the Farm Bill has not been updated. It's supposed to be updated this year. It's already expired technically, but hopefully they're going to get it updated. And because this expects not just cannabis, but all farmers. And when this goes in effect, I think they are going to address what's called intoxicating hemp that actually gets people high. So if you go to a state like Texas where cannabis is totally illegal, I think there's 40,000 outlets in Texas where you can get intoxicating hemp and get every bit as high as if you're buying cannabis. And by the way, there it is in that slide, that hurts the legal cannabis market as well, because those people are trying to follow the rules and pay all these extra taxes. And meanwhile, the people next door are selling intoxicating hemp. So it's really not fair. It's a loophole. By the way, many states are cracking down. California just, I think, cracked down on it recently as well. Finally, from Carla McCall, um, she showed this from a year ago, 2023 and 2024. What are the top issues for firms? And I think our main for years, and it will continue, finding and retaining talent is a huge issue for all firms. That's not going to stop because baby boomers are aging out. But I think that what she wanted to highlight is AI came out of nowhere. We all know this. It wasn't on anyone's thoughts 2 years ago, and now it's number one and two. So that's a big deal. And then client accounting services is their biggest growth area, pushing out bookkeepers. And so if you're like me and you want to go into a client and offer them everything from bookkeeping, accounting, tax, and CFO services, it's definitely a growth area. In my contention, we can do it way better than a firm can do it. Firms are way too busy to come into the cannabis space and try to do those things. All right, let me see where I am on time. We are about halfway in, and I'm trying to get you out of here in 30 minutes. So I will now, so that's a big recap of the cannabis conference. You can Google more on our blog. Definitely follow some of these people that I had to see what they put out. They put out their own blogs. There's going to be a lot happening around the election. And so you get to see what's happening. It's all good news, in my opinion. It's just how quickly are we going to get to that finish line? We're growing either way. We're liable to see 4 more new states coming on here in the next 30 days when the elections hit.